Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On Creativity. Thank you for joining us. I'm Matt Nickley. During the SCAD Lacoste Film Festival, one of the finest British character actors of all time, Mr. Toby Jones, screened his 2015 performance, Tale of Tales, and enthralled students in his unforgettable masterclass. Jones's range across genres and mediums is an actor's dream, and his command of physicality and tone is unparalleled. You know him from films like Infamous, The Hunger Games, Captain America: The First Avenger, the Harry Potter franchise, and Tinker Tailor: Soldier Spy. He's given us unforgettable television performances in Detectorists, Marvelous, and Sherlock, and his stage work has earned him acclaim on both the West End and Broadway. His latest film, Mr. Burton, chronicles the journey of a young Richard Burton from schoolboy to actor, thanks to his life-changing mentor, portrayed by Jones. It's the perfect combination for this interview with lifelong educator and advocate for creative careers, Paula Wallace. From SCADcast, this is On Creativity, a conversation between Paula Wallace and Toby Jones.
Well, Toby, welcome to the Lacoste Film Festival and congratulations on your Virtuoso Award.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored to be here.
The students enjoyed hearing from you earlier today, and I was fascinated by your advice about movement and about how people move, how people speak is how they move, and that's a real insight into their character. And it reminded me of your portrayals of both Truman Capote and Alfred Hitchcock, and how really their movements and their speech really did give great insight into who they were.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, in a way, as an actor, character is a kind of restriction. You're trying to put restrictions on what you would normally do. And so trying to find a voice or trying to find a way a character moves and linking the two, hopefully organically, is a way of finding a good creative restriction.
Mm-hmm. But I could really see that when I thought back about your portrayals of those that really gave insight into who they were. This year, you star in the film Mr. Burton as a young Richard Burton's teacher and mentor. And, of course, Philip Burton is another man of letters, too.
Yeah. A teacher. A teacher and also a radio dramatist, if you can imagine such a thing. He wrote a lot of plays for the BBC, and he was a playwright. And then latterly set up, much like you, a drama school in New York, and had this sort of late flowering in his life where when Richard Jenkins, who later became Richard Burton, worked a lot in the States. My character, Philip Burton, moved to the States as well, having had quite a domestic, quite small life as a school teacher during the war. He had this late flowering. So the story tells the story of their relationship.
Well, that's a very complex relationship.
Yeah. Not least because Richard, spoiler alert, but Richard Jenkins, in order to go to Oxford University, was formally adopted by Philip Burton, and hence became Richard Burton.
That's how he became Richard Burton.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I know Elizabeth Taylor said without Philip Burton, there would have been no Richard Burton.
And in the film, you see how Richard Burton first discovered his voice, the famous voice that everyone knows of him, and how Philip taught him to use his voice and the unconventional means in which he taught him, and also how he inspired him to appreciate literature and language. And it's just a story really of a relationship, but also about a teacher and a pupil. But it's somewhat unconventional.
Mm-hmm. Aristotle and Alexander. Yeah. Has there been someone like Philip Burton in your own life?
I think I'm lucky. I can pinpoint teachers or moments of school where literature took hold for me, and at other times, other subjects like theology or French or history, where I was inspired, and also drama. And then I suppose latterly I would have to say that studying under Jacques Lecoq sort of completely revolutionised the way I approach what I do, and to a certain extent the way I approach my life.
Oh, how was that?
I think because you spend so much of the time observing rather than doing, observing other people failing largely, as he set out tasks, and you weren't told how to do something, but everyone had to sort of get up and volunteer to have a go at something. And so you watched other people failing, learning, adjusting, as much as you yourself were doing it. And it's that training in observation is something I think anyone who's been to the school leaves with, that they're trained to watch how things move and how their movement tells a story.
Yes, it does. Yeah, you told the students you're observing all the time as an artist, and I'm sure you.
I wish I had a more noble job, like a doctor or whatever. But I have this job, which is that I remain. I can't help myself. I'm fascinated by people and what people do and why they do it and how they do it. That whether I like it or not, I remain fascinated.
Well, that's very noble. You also portrayed Alan Bates, another real person who was a true hero for so many.
Is a true hero.
He is a true hero, literally defined persistence, perseverance, stamina.
Yeah. I mean, by definition of hero, one means someone who refuses to accept defeat and injustice. He most certainly is a hero, and he continues to fight for the postmasters who were so cruelly imprisoned in many cases, many who were lost their livelihood. And this injustice continues. It's still unresolved, and Alan, I think, won't rest until it is resolved.
He doesn't, I mean, yes, from the film, he doesn't seem to be one to rest.
No,
he perseveres. And I noticed Joe was always asking, what happened to the money? Was there any resolution to that?
No, there isn't any resolution. It's a fascinating thing that
it just disappeared.
Debt was invented by the computer.
Yeah.
Debt was repaid, but no one quite knows what happened to that money.
Yeah, which was precious to those people.
Well, I mean, it destroyed people having to pay that.
Yes, it did. Yeah, he was a true hero, representing so many people's interests, other people's interests. Yes. He kind of stepped aside, but...
Yes, I think they were fortunate. I don't think he was looking to do this. I mean, anyone who becomes a postmaster, almost by definition, they're looking to disappear into their community. Yeah. Because often a rural post office, which some of these people were, they were rural postmasters, they're effectively sort of little banks in little villages and towns. So they're discreet people, and they serve their communities.
It's kind of a general store too.
Yeah, and they're kind of, by definition, respectable members of the community.
Yes.
So for them to be vilified in this way, I've met, as a result of playing the part, I've met several who had nervous breakdowns, who were imprisoned, whose family spurned them, and many died. And so it's a terrible, terrible story that, as I say, I'd love to say it's over, but it isn't over. And I'm proud of the little part we have played in drawing the public's attention to this injustice.
Definitely. For the SCAD Lacoste Film Festival, you chose to screen Tale of Tales. Yeah. And I wonder, what do you love about that film?
Well, Tale of Tales is a unique film in many ways. Matteo Garrone, who's this master director who directed Gomorrah, Pinocchio, various films, but they all have, I would say, a macabre element in them somewhere or other. And Tale of Tales, which presents as three folk tales, really, honours the macabre tradition of the folk tale. But they are about kings and monsters and giants and kings and princesses, and marriages being forced, and women making wishes and having wishes fulfilled that turn out to be mixed blessings. And like a lot of films, I think it's quite hard for foreign language films to reach the width of audience that they should reach. Anyone who I met who's seen this film, remembers it forever because it's so dark. But it's also very, very beautiful because it's all shot all over Italy. All the locations are actual locations in Italy. So it effectively works as a commercial for travel in Italy because it's very, very beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite fantastic. And so you're lovable and lurid in the film. So such mastery.
Thank you.
I have to ask you about The Detectorist, like one of my favorites. Love the premise and the slightly crunchy friendship.
Yes. Detectorist is,
Not detectors.
Not detectors. The classic mistake. Detectorist is obviously, as the name would suggest, is about the search for treasure with metal detectors. Two detectorists with their metal detectors looking for treasure. And no spoiler alerts, but that's what they are over the three series. That's what they're looking for. But the treasure, without it being too schmaltzy, I think the treasure is in fact in the search itself. So that's no great revelation there. But there is something in the warmth and the humour and the gentleness of this friendship between them, their genuine concern for each other, even though they can't really demonstrate it. It's implied by the warmth of their banter, the warmth of their conversation. And I think it's all set in this idyllic Suffolk countryside. And when we shot it, we'd all stay in this great pub and we'd just go out and walk to work. We'd either walk, a lot of the club, the Detectorist club that they're part of, is in a village hall. We could just walk up the road to the village hall. We could walk into the fields to film the detective. It was like going on summer holiday, particularly as the scripts needed no work whatsoever. It was so beautifully written that you didn't need to adjust them in any way. So it was a pleasure from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the joys of friendship, and that develops over time.
Yeah. And the joy of being part of a club.
Yes.
And I think for a lot of people, when they've talked to me, I think it also presents a life that a lot of people would like, where they have a social life, where they can go to the pub, where they can walk in the countryside, where they have time for their family, they have time to engage with their friends. And I think there's something idyllic about that culture that is presented. It's not a message of the show, but it's certainly a context in which the show happens that I think people really love. And also that Mackenzie takes time to show wildlife and the landscape.
Yeah, there are layers to it, for sure. Well, Tale of Tales is far from your only foray into fantasy, and I know our SCAD students, of course, adore Dobby from Harry Potter, as everyone does. What can you teach us about voicing such a complex and rich fantasy character?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when I was lucky enough to get that part, I was doing a show in the West End, and my voice was very, very tired. So when I went in for the audition, and I could see that the voice needed to be very high, my voice was so wrecked that I could easily reach these high notes by cracking into them.
Then you had to maintain that.
Then I had to maintain it. But what it meant was I made the very wise decision early on that whenever anyone said, "Oh, can you just do the voice into my phone for my kid?" I said, "I can't. I'll ruin my voice if I do that." So luckily, I have never had to do that, and otherwise I'd have spent the character is so popular that, like all those Harry Potter games, I spent my life saying happy birthday to strangers on phones.
As Dobby. Well, we teach animation and game design at SCAD, and so our students do some voice acting of fantasy creatures and characters. So I think they have a lot to learn from studying your work.
Oh, that's very nice. I mean, I'm by no means an expert in it. What I have done a lot of is radio
You've
drama,
done a lot,
of
yes.
radio. I mean, hundreds of
A
radio
lot.
plays and stuff, and that I really enjoy. Just the idea of conveying place, proximity, whatever, using the voice, suggesting the visual purely through the audible. I've always really loved that. I grew up listening to the radio, and it's magical. It remains magical to me.
And the storytelling. And isn't it interesting how the audiobooks have been
Hugely popular. Yeah.
Have you recorded audiobooks?
I've done a few of those. In fact, I'm going back to do one, a new book by the Norwegian Nobel Prize winner, John Fosse. So I'm going to do that when I go back.
Ooh, okay. Something for us to look forward to.
Yeah, hopefully.
I wonder if there are any of your many lines from stage and screen that just keep running. I mean, probably you just try to forget a role.
I don't really have any choice. It's interesting. My brain unconsciously deletes everything as soon as it's finished. I'd love to be able to quote from loads of work that I've done.
So you don't wake up dreaming about
No,
something.
what I wake up about is learning the lines for the next thing.
Okay.
And I think my brain just goes, okay, we don't need that anymore. Let's create some space for this new one.
Yeah.
And this new one happens to be extremely large. So
Yes.
I'm very grateful that when I wake up in the mornings, it hasn't all disappeared.
Yeah, you'll return to the West End stage this fall in Othello as Iago. What have you reconsidered? Because obviously you've read this many times, but in your rereading of it, is there anything that you've discovered about the character?
Well, I was reading a critic writing about Shakespeare and describing a very good critic, Emma Smith, and she was saying that Shakespeare's enduring power is not for all the reasons that are normally given. It's partly what makes him fascinating is the gappiness in his dramas, the fact that there are no specific personalities. Things are not fixed in a way that a modern playwright would fix. That what it means to be a king, what it means to be a villain, what these people look like, none of that is laid down in stone. So every time you come to those plays, you have to rediscover, reinvent the plays. And the extraordinary thing about them is that they meet the age in which they come. If you address them with that openness. So I think coming to, again, what's extraordinary is there's always scenes and moments you forget that there's that in it as well. They seem to be so full because they are as dense as poems. And so you're constantly having to reacquaint yourself with them as you would with a poem, with a very long poem.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What do you think drives Iago's villainy?
Well, I think it's darker than that. I'm not sure that anything. I suspect that there is, as much as Othello is a victim of his own jealousy, I think Iago is driven by his own envy. And so the play is literally about those two things. And to a certain extent, what triggers Iago is more mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he at this stage is where I think it's enough that he is envious both of Cassio and of Othello. That it's enough to trigger something in him to behave sociopathically, really. Mm-hmm. It's out of all proportion.
Yes.
With what he claims the injustice that he suffered, and that disproportion, I think, is more mysterious. Why he acts so appallingly. But I also think that the comic dimension of the play operates in the fact that the disproportion of it is important because it implicates the audience. Mm-hmm. That the audience, in tolerating and being talked to directly and in being informed by Iago what he's going to do, they laugh at his malevolence, even as they are tolerating it and to a certain extent indulging it with their enjoyment of the play. And I think that the play operates in that strange area of almost being comic, because a lot of Iago's plans become almost farcical. So I think there's all that to explore, and that's the exciting part.
Yes.
The slightly daunting part is what I'm involved in at the moment, which is sort of getting myself prepared to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, envy and jealousy. 'Twas ever thus, right?
Yes, right.
Well, you light up every stage and screen that you're in and virtually give a master class every time you perform. So thank you so much for being here with our students, for being here at our film festival. And it sounds like I'm going to have to make a trip to London this fall.
It'd be lovely to see you there.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from Toby Jones. Othello, starring Toby Jones, David Harewood, and Caitlin Fitzgerald, opens at the Theatre Royal Haymarket on October 23rd. Thank you for tuning in to On Creativity, executive produced and hosted by SCAD President and Founder Paula Wallace, with original music by SCAD alumnus George Lovett. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.